Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, shit. Wow.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. The first day of the Great Lima Coaster Hunt was a mixed bag, as some places had a closed coaster or didn't have one at all, and others had one that was open and ridden. Will the next part of the hunt continue this trend, or will there be a chance to add to the list and maybe even get some redemption from previously missed coasters? The second day of the coaster hunt began with a ride out to the town of Atte and a stop at Parque Zoológico Huachipa. So day 2 of my coaster hunt here is going to be a little bit more challenging because the places I've got lined up for today are fairly more spread out. I had to take about a 40-minute ride to get here to Atte for this zoo, and I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out. I've got the other places that I'm going to try to backtrack to from yesterday as well, and so this might spill over into a third day tomorrow, but we'll see how it goes. My hope was that since this was the first place to open for the day, I could take advantage of the early opening to get the coaster and have some spare time for some of the later credit stops. The zoo itself was of decent size, and from the look of the map, they had a decent variety of animals to see. Some of those animals were the inspiration for the decor of this park. There's a section of the zoo where they have a playground for kids, where the coaster I was hoping to ride is located. Although I wouldn't get it as quickly as I'd hoped. Just got the word that the coaster opens at 10, that's about 45 minutes from now, so a little bit longer than I'd hoped, but at least it's gonna open from what I've been told. So, we're gonna go check out some more animals. There was one section of the zoo that was dedicated to barnyard animals, where you would see ponies, goats, sheep, and others. You should see the chicks at this place. The next section over, visitors could see alpacas, which are significant to the Peruvian culture as they are often the ones used to carry goods from place to place, especially in the Andes Mountains. They were located next to the area where you could find speckled bears, the only bear species native to South America. There was also a section dedicated to animals of Australia, such as kangaroos and emus. What may have been a highlight of this zoo was its very large bird aviary, with many different species to see as they flew and walked nearby the path you would take inside. I heard a thud, and I found out my friend was following me. Little did I know, he would follow me around for a while. Think of my name of Kevin. One thing that sets this aviary apart from others is the central tower that overlooks the rest of it, giving you a closer look at the birds in the higher parts of the trees. While I was up there, though, I noticed something was missing. Someone wasn't following me anymore. The cave with the waterfall is another really nice touch inside the aviary. It was neat to see the birds of the aviary, but departing a new friend wouldn't be so easy.
Bye, Kevin. I'll miss you.
Before heading back toward the front of the zoo, I saw a few more animals, and then it was about time for me to go for the coaster once more. Although it wasn't quite ready at 10 as the staff member I asked had told me.
Watching these guys here on the Wacky Worm seems like they might be doing some last minute lubricating of the wheels, so perhaps they're getting it ready to open up soon. So just hang tight for a little bit, then get a ticket, and we're gonna give it a ride.
Since I had a bit more of a wait, I found a place to sit and had myself another cold Inca Cola. Once they started testing the coaster, I went to the ticket booth, paid for a ride, then got ready to kick off the second coaster hunt day with a successfully earned credit.
Credit achieved. Yes!
After getting the zoo credit, it was a bit more than an hour-long ride to the town of Cieneguilla, which included driving through the desert foothills to the east of Lima. This town is home to the second park of the day, Rancho Aventura Park. When entering the park, you purchase your admission and ride tickets at the front, rather than using ticket booths in the park. For a smaller park in a more remote town, this is incredibly well maintained and landscaped, making it one of the nicest parks in Peru. They even have an attached water park on the other side of an access bridge, although I unfortunately didn't have the time for it because of the other stops I had planned. Like many of the other parks in Peru so far, the primary reason for this stop was yet another Wacky Worm style coaster. Getting both of the first two coaster credits was already making this day more successful than the previous.
This was really such a neat little park, and I wish I had more time to scope it out a little bit more, maybe do a couple extra rides, scope out the water park. But the main idea of these days in Lima are the credits, and so I gotta roll so that I can try to knock out as many as I can today, hopefully to try and avoid having to spill over into tomorrow.
Heading to the next stop involved a bit of a backtrack through the town of Atte and over to Chosica, seeing some of the previous sites of the last drive. This was a tough trio of parks to plan for because of their locations and the lack of a direct route between Cieneguilla and Chosica because of the mountains between them. Directionally speaking, it would have made the most sense to start with Rancho Aventura, then stop in Atte for the zoo, before continuing to Chosica. But since the zoo opened about 2 hours before Rancho Aventura, and the other park didn't have as much information about its hours, I thought I could knock it out, head to Rancho Aventura, which would mean an afternoon arrival to the third stop, putting it into prime time for park operating hours. Well, given the delay in opening the coaster at the zoo, it might have made as much sense to do the more logistical arrangement, especially given that the drive from Cieneguilla to Chosica was supposed to be about an hour and a half. But there was heavy traffic in Atte, and then even more heading into Chosica because of a mountain road closure on the other side of town, so it took an extra hour on top of that.
I've never stopped in the midst of an Uber ride before, but the traffic getting into the city was so bad it wasn't moving at all. So I decided to try and make it a little bit easier for the poor guy who was driving, give him a little bit of extra cash for his trouble, and then just go ahead and walk the rest of the way, because as you can see, these folks aren't going anywhere.
While there wasn't much I could do about the traffic, I did eventually get to Chosica's Plaza de Armas, and inside of it was a small area with rides and play structures referred to as Family Park. And just like the previous 2 stops, this one had a wacky worm style coaster, and it was open, making a successful 3 consecutive coaster credits earned.
Another stop, another wacky worm. Success!
Heading back toward Lima would be much quicker, as I arrived to another municipal park in San Juan de Lurigancho called Parque Zono de Quiracocha. This was very similar to the 2 city parks from the previous day, with nice walking paths and sport courts for people to play on. There was also an artificial river that could be used for small boats to ride through. And you can enjoy the view of the surrounding Peruvian mountains. While these were nice, I was in search of a coaster. And I seemed to find the amusement area, which included an ATV track set up like a go-kart course. There were a few other rides and play structures here, but I didn't see a coaster, so I took my search further. When looking at the Google Maps satellite view, there was another spot further into the park that seemed to show a coaster, so I walked over to check it out. Unfortunately, it seemed to be that it had been removed, as all that remained was an empty dirt patch, making this the first unsuccessful stop of the day.
The images from Google Maps may not be quite up to date in this particular area. The coaster could have just recently been removed. It's hard to say because these places don't often get updated as quickly as the larger parks. And today's perfect streak has come to an end. But the night's not over yet.
Just down the street from this park was the next stop, which was located just outside of another Metro Market location. Between it and a movie theater was the entrance to Vertice Center. This park primarily had smaller rides packed together, but toward the back corner, hidden by other attractions, was the coaster I was looking for. Upon first glance, this looks like your average wacky worm style coaster, but when looking it over, there were several differences, including a different look for the train, a major head chopper out of the station, and a little pre-lift dip that you usually don't see on them. The least unusual thing about this one was it being portable, although even that was a twist, as most portable wacky worms have their trailer as part of the station. This one had it as part of its lift structure. One final difference, the big drop was actually a bit intense. Don't believe me? Here's a look.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, shit. Wow.
Yeah, I almost lost my phone the first time through that hill, but it really was a surprise for such a small coaster how jarring it was. Nonetheless, it was another successful credit obtained. Even with the delays earlier in the day, I felt that I had enough time to double check the location that one of the cab drivers the previous day told me was closed. At yet another Metro Market location, they had a sort of entertainment square with an arcade, and next to it was another Vertice Center. Just like the previous stop, the attractions were on the smaller side, and this had the same model of coaster as well, with the same station head chopper and pre-lift dip. But this was a stationary version without the trailer. The big drop also didn't seem as intense, although I rode in the front row this time and there weren't as many other passengers on it, so that may have contributed. I was glad to have double-checked the park as it meant adding another credit to the list and a bit of redemption from the previous day. To finish up this night, I went back to Plaza Norte so I could check off another coaster that should be running, and that was the spinning coaster at Happy Land.
So I was able to get the credit after all. It took coming back another night to get it, but it has been ridden. Now with that being said, I haven't eaten anything since breakfast this morning, so I'm gonna check out one of the restaurants here at Plaza Norte.
This central plaza was filled with a wide variety of eateries to choose from, including places you could find back in the States. But I wanted to try something more local, leading me to a restaurant called La Planca. This gave me a chance to try Cusqueña Roja, Cusqueña's red lager, and a meat dish known as anticuchos.
So according to what I read, this was a traditional item in the Andes pre-colonial times in South America. It smells delicious. I'm ready to have some meat. Oh. That is delightful. Nice, it's juicy, it's tender. Oh. Excellent.
After 4 nights in Miraflores, it was time for the next destination for my time in Peru. But before heading to the airport, I had one more stop I wanted to give a second shot, as I was hoping to knock out the coaster credit at Dino Park off my list. That, however, wouldn't be the case.
So I was just delivered some bad news. Unfortunately, the coaster here is cerrado once again, so it's not going to be happening today. A little bit of a bummer, but at the same time, I will have a little bit of time in Lima on the way to Chile after Cusco. So might look into trying it again. Probably see if there's a way to get in touch with the park before coming up here a second time, because when I was here the other day, they said that it should be open the next day. However, they're saying now, today, that it won't be open at all. So it makes me wonder if perhaps there's a bigger problem with it. And so I'll see about possibly trying to get in touch with the park before coming here when I have a day after going to Cusco. So unfortunately, this will continue to be a missed credit for now.
And with that, it's on to the next stop for this Peruvian adventure. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube like these ones, which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.